So earlier today, I got an email from a listener of the podcast, and they asked a question about indifference, E-N-T-S, not E-N-C-E, and death. They said death, since it prevents us from being virtuous, because it prevents us from existing, you can't be virtuous if you're dead, then isn't death how can it be an indifferent? So in Stoicism, virtue is the only good, which means the only thing that really hurts us are things which prevent us from being virtuous. Usually, that is only our thoughts, our emotions, our attitudes, and our actions. So usually viciousness or vice happens within us. But if death stops us from practicing virtue, then certainly death must be not an indifferent, but a vice. Not the case. And here's the reason. It looks like a contradiction on the surface, so it's really a great question. And I wrote an article on my post profile, which I'll maybe link, or maybe I won't, I'll put it somewhere, that you can go read the full answer to and the full explanation. But essentially, death is an inevitability. It's not something that might happen, it is something that will happen. And since the Stoics viewed nature as God, those two words are interchangeable in Stoicism, and death is a function of nature, then it can't be a vice. It has to therefore become an indifferent. Now, it could be a preferred indifferent or a dispreferred indifferent. An example of when it might be a preferred indifferent is if in order to stay alive, you have to do something terrible, an action that would actually compromise your virtue, make you unvirtuous. If that's the only way you could stay alive, then it would be a preferred indifferent to die. Another example might be you have a terminal illness. You are in immense pain, and eventually you're going to lose perhaps your faculties. You're not going to be able to experience your own life anymore. Then perhaps then, and this would be up to the individual, it could be a preferred indifferent, death. In most cases, though, death is a dispreferred indifferent, meaning we would prefer it not to happen, which, of course, it must happen, but we would prefer it not to happen for as long as possible because we're busy trying to build virtuous characters. So in most cases, death is a dispreferred indifferent, but death is not a vice, it's not vicious, it is an indifferent, and those are the reasons why.